A very good morning, our viewers, and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. My name is Simapolo. Welcome from that very busy week. We are concluding and full of joy, full of happiness here and there for sports lovers. The Arsenal-Manchester United game really made headlines, but on this side of politics, a lot really happened. Looking at what is happening in matters of security, and then on the side of the politicians who are traversing the countryside, mobilizing support here and there. We'll be looking at those big stories, but as we kick off the show, let me introduce the guests and panelists this morning, and it is Dr. Gerard Wanzala, a public policy researcher, who will, of course, kick off the show. Welcome to the show, Gerard.
Thank you. Good morning, our esteemed viewers. We are really happy to be here to engage with you. And also special thanks to our host, Apollo, for always guiding us well in the debate. And of course, good morning to my co-panelists.
Wow. How was your week? And you must be in really bright moods because of the Arsenal win.
Oh yeah, you know, every time we beat Man U, it is a sweet win, and I always celebrate it. I was very happy, but only on a bad note. Yesterday we suffered a lot with the traffic jam around Kampala because of the people who are eating meat in Kololo. I think it's not good to keep closing these roads over and over again.
Celebrating the birthday of...
Exactly, because many roads are under maintenance. And so people don't have many options. Now you go and close all Kololo roads, then you have cut off people going to Kamocha. So at the end of the day, you clog the whole city. And so a lot of time is wasted, money. So please, our leaders, you take such events in some places.
Really?
And let people work. Yes.
All right. On the panel today again, we welcome Dr. Daniel Rugarama, the chairman of the Pan-African Movement. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, dear comrades. Good morning, my fellow panelists here, and to you, Comrade Apple. The week, I will commence with what my brother has just mentioned. We already burdened as a city with a poor road network, a lot of potholes, dusty roads, and I don't think that the president would be impressed. Probably maybe he's not properly briefed about some of these things, that roads can be closed in the manner that, for instance, they were closed. And there is no doubt that a lot of time is wasted and money
and inconveniences
as a consequence. I also add my voice to my brother, Dr. Wanzala, to appeal to the authorities, if they can listen, that we don't need to do that again. And maybe also to wrap up the week, the president was reassuring the Bazukuru and the rest of us about the state of security in the country. Of course, we have politicized as usual this bomb, not a scare because they were discovered, and it's not the first time we have had that. So I believe we need to take extra caution, and I commend the security forces for the efforts so far.
Okay.
And finally, as for the week, probably because there are certain things we didn't say, but I remind the population that we had the concluded elections in Zimbabwe, and SADC, African Union, have had their doubts about the same, but at the same time I witnessed three important presidents witnessing the swearing in
of
the crocodile Emerson Mnangagwa. So the contradiction there, but it is not the topic for today. And maybe finally also the Katemba Mukoti, or the drama that happened in Gabon, looking at the Bongo family overthrowing itself, and the conspiracy of silence from the would-be noisemakers, simply because those who overthrew assured the public that they are not going to tamper with the existing contracts.
All right. Thank you so much, Comrade Rugarama, and possibly we didn't talk about the excitement in Busoga, Busoga Kingdom.
Busoga getting the Ineband. From the pictures, I saw a very beautiful woman, and I also listened to the people, just who were interviewed from the Busoga region, and they were all claiming that this is a very correct selection, and that reassures that the kingdom is moving,
gaining more and more stability.
Absolutely, and people are also getting worried as to why the king was not getting you know how it is. So first of all, he has kept within the house, which is also important. From the Pan-African point of view, of course, you can critique that, but honestly speaking, I think from the cultural point of view, that's a plus.
Good. Thank you so much. And on the panel again this morning, we will come back. Asuman Odaka, the Secretary General for the NED political party. Welcome to the dialogue once again.
Thank you very much, my brother Apollo, with my colleagues here. The viewers, good morning.
And how was your week, Wilfrey?
A fully packed week, as usual. We have a candidate in the Hoima, LOC5 by-elections. So we have been running up and down. The campaigns are going on. It's called Tugume. Tugume Lennox. I think in that race, there is, I don't think there is anybody better than him.
Wow.
I saw yesterday and the other day, the Prime Minister, which I think it is not correct. The Prime Minister Nabanja is already meddling in that politics, in that campaigns. She went, first of all, she's sending people to want to buy a party a party candidate, which is
out of the race.
Yeah, out of the race. So I want to use this platform to tell Nabanja that is not correct. I saw.
Is it your candidate being
I'm saying so because they sent, and the candidate is one who sent me the message. Secretary General, there is this going on. I also saw her fighting and almost exchanging blows with some of the councillors, because where she went, where the party, the NRM party candidate was launching his campaign, she was there, the one leading, and then there are councillors who don't agree with
their candidate,
the
party candidate.
But they had come as NRM, so imagine the Prime Minister herself grabbing some of them by the collar, throwing them out.
She's a boxer.
So it looks like we have already started some kind of drama, melodrama already taking place in the Hoima elections. But generally for us, we appeal to our people of Hoima that the person to have this time. Of course, Hoima has so many problems, a lot of problems. Already what is going on is as if Hoima is on sale. But I want to tell them they have a choice. That the district is there, they have a choice. They know what is happening in Kapapi. They know what is happening in Chigorovia, where a whole party, somebody just comes and fences off and even goes with the cows. Do you know?
Land grabbing.
Land grabbing, but not just land grabbing, comes with the fusos and even the cows of the people of Inikapapi are loaded on fuso and driven to Kampala, and then the people in Kapapi are driven to Hoima city town, and they are there in tents. You people are media people, you go and look at that is happening in this country. So that is all what is at stake in that election.
Very unfortunate. But we know that Hoima has been a hotspot for blood elections.
Yes, yes.
the woman MP elections
Yes.
between Businje and Asinas.
But you see, all that is because of the interest, the economic interest in that area. But then also in others, generally, for me, the inconvenience doctor is talking about, it looks like we might be having a lot more inconveniences. Let me tell you, I stay along Bombo Road, but we are now almost getting used, we who cross that road, that if you stay home beyond 9 o'clock, then you must be prepared to leave home past 1. Why? Because at around 10:30, the president is passing. Either he's from Nakasero going to Entebbe, or from Entebbe going, and they close for 1 hour normally.
Yeah.
They close that road for 1 hour. So just as the president has passed, 20-30 minutes, either the wife is also passing, and they close. Now we imagine, why don't they move together at least?
They are different.
Because
they hold different.
And it is very inconveniencing, by the way. Almost every day that happens.
All right. Talking about those inconveniences of blocking roads and then disrupting traffic, we have to find a way of dealing with it. Because in this country, we have many big people who have huge privileges, including the right of way. Not only the president, not only the first lady or others, but we even have other people.
But by the way, Apollo, sorry to whatever, but you see, the issue of, in as far as law is concerned, on right of way, it is clear. It is the president.
Yeah.
It is security, which is police,
ambulances.
and ambulance. Now, the rest you see are all masquerading. The minister doesn't have right of way.
That is what I was talking about. We kick off the dialogue. My name is Simapolo. You can be part of this big discussion. Send your messages, observations on our WhatsApp platform, and we'll be very pleased to read those observations out to you and out to our audiences. Like I said, several issues to look at. NUP, the National Unity Platform, the opposition leading party, continues to gather and attract crowds, on their nationwide mobilization tours. We saw what happened in Kabale, we saw what happened in Kasese, but what happened in Mbale was really massive. If my producer can run 1 or 2 pictures, and then we kick off the show from there, and the debate that has been running in public discourse is whether those crowds really mean support, or, if I may say, votes in 2026. At the beginning, there were others, especially from NRM, who were claiming that those crowds are actually people ferried from other places and taken to the venues, but I don't think that can be true.
You say the person who said...
Dr. Gerard Werewanzara, speak. That is Mbale. I think that is Mbale. Look at that big crowd. And again, as you come in, others also say, especially from NRM, say that those crowds are the same people who come to the meetings organized by the FDC, especially Dr. Kizibisiji and others. So they are the same people who then it doesn't mean anything.
First of all, if I was a political strategist of the president, the president's party of NRM, of which I am not, I would take very keen interest into that. Those people you see are not paid any money to go to those rallies.
Yeah, sure.
They walk on foot. The other day I received a call. A friend called me from Butaleja and told me he wanted the border to bring him to Tororo town, but there were no motorcycles. Where? In Butaleja, because when they heard that Bobi Wine is going to Mbale, they all used the shortcut from Butaleja through Doko. They came up to Kamonkoli, close to Mbale, waiting the whole day for Bobi Wine to arrive, and they escort him to Mbale town.
Some of them came up
And
to
some
Tororo.
people had come with bicycles from as far as Buburo. The person who has been to Mbale knows this. So this shows that there is interest in the person that they are going to listen to. And therefore, if I was a strategist, I would pay attention to that. There is no, because we have seen recently, with the due respect, the General MK was in Soroti. We have friends in the media. People are transported on trucks from different places, and then a lot of food is cooked. At the end of the day, people also share, apart from the meat and rice, there is a 10,000 shillings being given to people that they go back. So you can see that there is specific interest in this other person, Bobi Wine. Now, the other matter, some of the challenges this government is facing, and which I know even the president is aware. There are three things. One is the demographics, the changing demographics. The average age of a Ugandan is 16. That's average. The average age of our political leaders is 62. The difference is very big. And now the population, now you calculate that population, and you see 78% of Uganda's population is below 30. 30 years.
And Uganda is the second youngest country on the African continent. In the world, I think.
In the world, yes. So now, if you look at those dynamics, it means the government has a very strong responsibility of ensuring that jobs are found for these people. People are involved in productive activities, such that that's the only way that you can buy them. The other, which I consider also a gap, is that many of these people have not been mentored. They have not been mentored. The president talks about the president talks about ideological orientation,
disorientation,
yes, and orientation. But orientation is lacking. Most of the people we are targeting, we are now like Chankwanzi now. We are targeting local government leaders. We take RDCs there. We take LOC5 chairpersons there. But there is a group we have ignored, and no one is thinking about this group. So at the end of the day, if you have many young people who are agitated, it is not very, very good, especially if they are not mentored. Because time comes when these patrols cannot work. So I can assure you that what the Bobi Wine Israelis are showing is that there is certain anger for change in society. And one of the facts of life is that change is natural. It's a natural process. After some time, you can buy time, but at a certain point you cannot. That is why you see that...
Before you proceed, Bobi Wine contested in the 2021 elections. And of course, if he was allowed, I just suppose, if he was allowed to freely, run his rallies, we would have seen the same crowds. But look at the outcome. He did not. He did not.
You just said if he was.
Of course, I don't want to be naive to say that every time all people who turn up are going to vote for you. That's also another issue. But electoral outcomes are determined by a lot of things. One, registration. Do you know that in Uganda, actually I was doing a research recently for the African Youth Development Link. And then I discovered that in South Africa, they stop the registration, they extract the register 3 months to elections. And then in Kenya, elections were in August, and then they extracted the register in February, 6 months to elections. In Uganda, we stopped the registration and extracted 12 months below. So now when I looked at the statistics, every day 3,800 Ugandans were making 18 years of age. So all that group, which amount to about 2 million votes, did not vote. They did not vote. So what I mean is that the outcome of elections is determined by so many things. If you tamper with the voters register, you can mess an election. If you tamper with campaign financing, bribery, can alter an election. The use of force, violence, can scare voters away. Actually, when you see very violent elections, the objective usually is to chase away the voters.
Even COVID played a big role.
Exactly, so that you don't realize the number.
Elections.
Exactly. You see areas where Bobby Wine was very popular, the turn-up was very high. So in some areas, I'm not meaning that this is always the practice everywhere in Uganda. But what I mean is that if you use force in an election, like say Soroti seated, we witnessed that by elections, Soroti East, the voter turn-up was about 38%.
It drops.
So all people stayed home fearing the military, fearing every politician in the country is in the place. So people are like, I want to go there and be killed because of so and so. Let me stay home. So at the end of the day, you will celebrate, but you don't have legitimacy because the population, the number of people that voted you is very small.
All right.
Therefore, they should take that message Ugandans are giving very, very seriously.
Thank you. Dr. Rugarama, you I'm not so sure if you are a supporter or a member, but I know that you are a sympathizer of the NRM. And Dr. Gerard Wedehe talks about strategists in NRM to take serious concern about these crowds.
On record, I'm a supporter of NRM.
Oh, yeah.
And for a record again, I happened in the country to head one of the pillars upon which NRM as a party rotates, that is Pan-Africanism. I don't hold a card, but I think I'm more useful, with due respect to those who hold cards. I'm more useful than a good number of them who hold cards.
Okay.
Now, that notwithstanding, I appreciate the submissions of my brother, Dr. Wanzari. The truth of the matter is that I said it here, I repeat it. The NRM government is not doing anybody a favor, and I don't think that's how they are looking at it, by allowing the law to take its course. That the political parties are out there in accordance with the laws of the land to consult.
Yeah.
That's absolutely very fine.
And mobilize.
And I'm very happy this time that it is happening without the overzealousness of some of our people in government and outside the government. I hope that with this kind of happenings, it is going to pay dividends to all the participants, NRM inclusive. That is one. Now, two, the elections, that is my area of expertise, is not an event. No, it is a process. And we make mistake by thinking that elections are only when you get your ballot paper and you go and cast. This entire process, from when you form the intention, then you start now looking at what the law allows and you operate. Because even the law, which is very bad for you to be able to participate in politics, electoral democracy itself is a hindrance. But okay, the available laws, are they being respected by all stakeholders, and are you doing what you're supposed to do within the time frame? If we had time, of course, I would tell you that in Uganda, like majority of other jurisdictions on the African continent, there is a problem that every time from when one is voted into office, you begin campaigning for the next term. That is very unfortunate. It shouldn't be like that, but that's how it is. Now, three, there has been an allegation that there is a lot of money used in the politics of Africa, and that is corruption. I disagree. I want to tell our viewers that actually the so-called epitomes of democracy, America and elsewhere, and particularly America, it is one country that uses huge lots of money in the electoral cycle. Unbelievably so huge that at the end of the day, the person
Don't
who
forget
is...
that they have it. They have money to
No,
spend.
but also, just to interject,
It's okay.
but also, the reverse here is that it is the leaders who pick the money and they buy people. But in the US, there are campaign rules. People fundraise, companies give, individuals give donations, and you must declare and account. You know that Trump is in court for using part of that money to bribe a prostitute, to silence a prostitute. Campaign money.
That is a huge debate, because I will tell you that at the end of the day, when the multinationals in America, who are actually, when you revisit the declassified information of CIA and other intelligence organs, are part and parcel of the government, they are the ones which, these multinationals, they are the ones actually which run the country. That at the end of the day, you are going to find that somebody who is seated in the White House is nothing but a cartoon. He is held hostage, and the people who are running the government are actually the multinationals. Anyway, that's a different debate altogether. But as to who actually uses more money in the electoral cycle, it's a debate that we can talk up to tomorrow. Now, maybe finally,
The crowds.
the crowds.
Yeah, he says
These large numbers you see,
you the strategists of NRM
you
must
should
pay,
take interest.
must
I
pay
can
critical
assure
attention.
you that these crowds you see here is not the first time. You remember when Dr. Chiza Besigye was coming from South Africa, and with Aunt Winnie, the entire, and we had the presidents, I think there was a conference around here. The entire
was coming from
Entebbe
Nairobi.
Road, it was coming from Nairobi.
Nairobi after he had been shot.
Okay. The entire Entebbe Road, it took more than 10 hours, I think, for Chiza Besigye to use the airport with the supporters up to when he went beyond Kampala. Now, you remember that during when he was nominated from prison with the Betty Kamyas and what have you, did a good job. And I must thank the NRM, because you can imagine there was an advice, a good opinion, that he shouldn't. Now the system said no. He was nominated from there.
What happened?
He was nominated from there.
No, I'm saying what happened when he was
When he was nominated, I can assure you that actually it was during that time, 2006? Yes. When he registered the highest percentage score in the elections. Now you can see, therefore, that where NRM has respected the rules of engagement, democracy has been given a chance, and the population, those who are not pretenders, have reached a conclusion that things are possible. Like it is happening now. These huge crowds, I can assure you that NRM has got its people there. They are part of those huge crowds. Oh yes, I'm telling you. They are part of those crowds. And if you argue, as I conclude, that it is not the case, this business of rigging and what have you, I'm not saying that NRM is angelic and they do not, probably there are not errors here and there and the rigging. Sometimes it is too bad that you also get like, no, this shouldn't happen. And I think the president said it in the by women, was it LC5 elections? Yeah. Around there.
Because
so
they rigged these,
the truth of the matter is that come 2026, you are going to realize that these, which you call huge crowds, the silent majority,
will overshadow
completely and also
and overrun these
you are
crowds.
going to witness it. I'm not a Jewish prophet, but it will happen.
Well, now that is Mhozi Kainerugaba, and actually on Twitter there was a war of these.
He does not
photos.
have any political party.
And they were his camp was also posting.
Doesn't
even
have any camp.
Even our camp when we went to the eastern Uganda, it was almost the same thing. So does that justify what you are saying? That they are the same people?
These are people for Right Honorable Speaker Anita Mongi. She's the one who was greeting, and he just called MK to come and wave to the people. These are not MK. Yes, he waved to them. Waved to them.
What are you implying? Okay, I'm so sorry we are going for a short break, but when we return, Asuman Odaka will also take his shot on what these crowds mean in the political space that in this country, especially that we are all looking at 2026, and somehow the political space has been opened even for the opposition to mobilize, and the panelists will also give their final comment on whether it is, I mean, indeed sustainable on the side of government and the state to let even the opposition do what they must do or what they are doing now. Let's go for a break. It is the dialogue, and we'll be returning after a short while. Welcome from the break. This is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo. Dr. Jared Wanzara, a public policy researcher, Dr. Comrade Daniel Rugarama, the chairman of the Pan-African Movement, and Asuman Odaka, the Secretary General for the NED Party. And we are looking at the crowds that the National Unity Platform continues to attract on their nationwide mobilization tours. Before we went for a break, the two doctors in the studios say indeed this should be a concern to the strategists within the NRM. And Suman Odaka, I now ask you to take your shot. What does this mean, and should it be really a concern as we all focus on 2026?
Allow me begin with this, that doctor, who I like and respect very much, keeps telling us about NRM and Pan-Africanism. I just want to mention that you know, I get uncomfortable when something that looks like untrue is being put forward.
What is
Doctor
untrue?
is a Pan-Africanist. But I don't want him, please, unless we put a debate and prove it forward, that one of the belief system of NRM is Pan-African.
The core principles.
It is not, because it is not.
Constitution.
Being in the paper and the practice are two different things. We know the practice is different, what they are doing is different. So I just thought, because NRM has no interest in Pan-Africanism. That we know, and we can talk about it.
Those are his views.
It is not a debate of today.
Those are his views.
You see,
yes.
I am putting this forward so that you, who puts the debate, one time thinks about bringing us here, because I'm interested in that. To tell people, to unpack what these public
we'll find time
people
to
say,
unpack what Pan-Africanism
yes,
really
organize
means,
that
and
debate.
whether really,
because it is a lie,
NRM
big lie.
has Pan-Africanism as a
Credentials.
principle
Yes.
at its core.
Absolutely. Organize that debate.
All right.
Because it is a big
I will
lie,
show
I
up.
don't like it.
Asuman,
Now,
the crowds.
The crowds. Dr. again put, in regard to the crowd, put a matter of fact and said that BSJ had the crowd, that those crowds are actually for BSJ, belong to BSJ, they belong, if BSJ went, the same
And
crowd
even
would be
NRM.
there.
He said even NRM.
That one he said with doubts.
Hey.
That's why you see when you showed the Muhozi, he said, but that one is not even, it doesn't even have a party. it was as if he's divorcing
No, he doesn't have a party. Those were people for Right Honorable Anita Among.
So you need to read, you need to listen through the lines when doctor is speaking. These doctors, being a doctor, it is not an easy thing. But anyway, my point is, let me tell you, the fact that if you put anything opposition, it will pull a crowd. That shows you, number one, that there is interest
in change.
In change. That's one. Number two, I also don't want anybody to think that, you see, in the last elections, for example, we had crowds, but in particular places. But you see, we hid behind a particular, it is COVID, and we said that there will not be open campaigns. And the reason for that was, one, all of us know that we are scared of how these crowds shape opinions. Because politics is about perception. And the crowd shape opinion. Let me tell you, what Dr. Werike was telling you, me, I have been in the field all through. Of course, because I'm building an organization, a new organization, but also as a political activist that I have been throughout. When Honorable Kyagulanyi was moving to the east, one of his rallies, I think the one that was in Mayuga or something, found me in Namayingo. I was in Namayingo doing some meeting. So I traveled through Busia, wanted to, because I knew I couldn't use now this Namayingo Mayuge Musita road. It was, you know,
because of the huge crowds.
Because of the crowd, you couldn't that day. So I went, slept in Tororo. So the following day, I was now returning to Kampala. But what I saw was, you know, people were leaving everything and moving. For example, when he was in that day when he was going to Mbale, people were leaving. People who had never, who don't have any business in Tororo town, were leaving. As far as Nagongera, those I know. And the only business they were going to do in Tororo town was to see Bobi Wine passing.
The musician.
No.
Go ahead.
Let
me not distract you. You go with your point.
No, but let me answer what you said. Museveni, is Museveni a musician or not?
He's a politician.
No, but is Bobi Wine a politician or a musician?
A musician. There is no solid political plan. So, he has
Doctor, let us not vulgarize the debate, because you know the truth. You know that you're simply vulgarizing it. And I don't want you to. I will tell you that these crowds, one, shape opinion. Number two, they are indicative of something, and that is change. Let me tell you, Honorable Muntu, General Muntu, was in Mukono yesterday. You get it? But the fact that he has no crowd, you people in the media are not reporting about him. And what does that mean? It is about opinion.
Yeah.
Now, when Muhoozi, President's son, was in Teso, and for a fact there is evidence that actually all his crowd were rented crowds. You remember when the crowd was talking and was saying hello, 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 and this gentleman from Kasanda, Daudi Kawanda, you know, couldn't even hold back. Then he started laughing at his boss, and the boss is failing to talk. Daudi Kawanda. And hello. Daudi Kamanda burst into laughter and said, so, but you see, everybody thought that crowd was also now determining the political pathway of Muhoozi. You get it? Now, so a crowds in politics is a game of numbers. and anybody who wants to discount whether one has been a musician and he came to politics,
Okay.
whether one has been a farmer and he came to politics, whether he has been a military man and came to politics, the crowd is important.
Odaka, you said the crowds communicate a message of change. And the question would be, can NUP, can Bobi Wine capitalize on these crowds and deliver change?
Yes, of course the challenge now with the crowd, once you have the crowd, the challenge is how to translate that crowd into real votes. You see, when Bobi Wine came and they started the issues of the vulgarization that doctor is still bringing back, that you see that one, they have just come to see a musician. You remember when it was in Koboko, that those ones came to see a musician. When the Maje girl was talking about the musician. Eventually, what happened to her, she knows. But what I'm saying, Bobi Wine then started with Funendaga something of that kind. No, Funendaga Muntu. Now, when the Funendaga Muntu, you know what happened when we were in Bugiri and we went to Jinja and the people, you know what boys were saying? You're saying, yes, we have come to see, you've been telling us that we have come to see a musician. Now, they would move with their ID. You remember Dr. Werike? They say, we have registered. Now it is not about music. It is about... So those things of still imagining people are so naive that they don't have Undaga Muntu.
Do you think the state will withstand those crowds up to the end?
No, you see, well, for me, the state, we normally have the state to guarantee the laws, that all of us go by. The rules we play by are the same. That's the role of the state. For me, I think we should not have the overzealousness, because every time we do things wrongly, we instead endanger the state. I saw a tweet and we were having a conversation with
isn't it a two-pronged, approach? Won't it in another way hurt the state?
No. I think
if you let them go, if you let them, free,
do their things, yes,
then
lawfully,
you may lose some. Then again, if you clamp down on them, then the same thing.
No, I think the state, once people are playing by what the law says, because the role of the state is clear. These ones, just to ensure that they are playing by the rules.
All right.
You get it? Play whatever by the rules, because what they are doing is actually envisioned in the Constitution, in the law, in the Political Parties and Organizations Act, in all the other acts. So just do that. So that, because I was just telling you that when we had a conversation, me, the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, and then Dan Ogalo, for example, about these bombs, Dan was asking them, now you see why, how good it is when police is doing its work and not following political parties around.
Okay, let me look at the messages that are coming in, and I implore you again, our viewer, to send in your comments and observations on the topics we are discussing in the studio. Good morning, members. Thanks for the show. On issues of crowds, I entirely agree with Uncle Dr. Wanzara. If I was a strategist for the NRM, I would be scared. I even suspect, like Honorable Chagulanyi said yesterday, they might now stop or start disrupting his remaining tours, because they have started seeing that things are getting serious and it might get out of hand when it's late. Olava, they have started planting superlatives in his rallies. Oh, I didn't know. I can't imagine what would have happened yesterday when someone tried to draw a gun and people saw him earlier. It's Otim Major Joel in Kirinya, Bukasa. He's back. Thank you so much, Joel. And as we wind up on this issue, Doctor, a final comment on this particular issue.
Joel mentioned something, of course, to reiterate what I said. And strategizing is important. I'm seeing, I think the president has
Do you think
devised
something will change
the president has devised certain methods
In the strategy.
trying. I don't look at the MK movement as innocent as Mhozi's bid alone for president. Towards 2026, we are likely to see that group come and integrate into Museveni's campaign. And then I'm also seeing some groups like the Bazukulu by Uganda movement by Namyalo. I think they are also, there's a way they are involving them, monitoring services, and I only get surprised with a mass party like NRM and this is secretariat. The secretariat is very dull. You don't.
Honorable Richard Todong.
Yes, I have not seen them invest in ideological
China
orientation to influence the thinking of the NRM members. They have something small at the secretariat, but it can't make impact in the country.
Perhaps
I only see
are
them
constrained by other organs, the bigger organs.
But they have the resources. Are they doing anything? The only way to where there's a by-election,
because
then they all storm because they allow it.
In any way, if you had,
they're driving very huge cars, they're earning fat salaries, and very comfortable at the NRM secretariat. Only when there is a by-election, they all wake up and leave the secretariat because there is money following them. Okay. So I think they need to do something beyond that. Otherwise,
do you see the state actually, I mean, letting these mobilization tours, opposition mobilization tours, go on and on and on?
For now, I think Uganda now, like I mentioned last week, is that we have some challenges. The World Bank has just suspended funding. We have people on sanctions for human rights violations. So you wouldn't want again to beat the opposition and then you fall into other traps. So I think they're trying to move carefully. But when we enter the electoral period, which starts, because remember the Presidential Elections Act, you can start aspiring 12 months a year before by consulting. Although it has been a miracle in Uganda, every time someone starts a year to consult is beaten or arrested. But so if we enter that stage in 2024, we might see some radical overzealous security force trying to interfere.
There is just one
make it very quick, and precise.
Yes. I agree with the Dr. Wazara about the ideological camps. I think this is a message we should take in good faith, and I will see to it that I talk to Tadwao. Two, the planting of spies within the opposition rallies. This has not just started. Any serious state, any serious government like NRM, they're always there. And not just spies, but a very good number of the supporters are also part of those crowds.
I totally
agree. Finally, I do not come to any debate, be it here or elsewhere, to vulgarize the debate. No. And I want to assure the viewers that the nature of NRM is that problems actually, the main problem of NRM is that with the beautiful programs that they have, they are twofold. One, the cadres down do not know how to effectively market the programs and do a very good job. And two, and finally, there is a problem that they don't give the public the correct picture of what they are doing. But NRM has got the best manifesto. It is just lacking biggest percentage of proper, correct implementation.
Even President Museveni talks about the lack of cadres. Morning, my presenter. Let Dr. Rugarama tell us his NRM card number. He said he's not a subscribed member. His good father should be Kakoza given his rough approach to issues. Secondly, if any man fails to get a wife out of female doctors or teachers, then why do you blame him when he finally finds one from sex workers? Allow people to enjoy Chagulanyi, who has their future. Magaya from Buyende. Thank you so much, Mr. Magaya. And gentlemen, I have to switch the topics because.
But I don't want to agree that doctor here is a radical and because I find him very honest.
From a viewer.
That's his opinion.
That opinion must be rejected straight away.
And struck off the record.
Absolutely. It is to go to the answer.
Okay,
that is very unfair to me.
Gentlemen, quickly.
No.
Quickly, a serious issue about security. Security affects all of us here, and bombs have been found, discovered around the Kampala. Actually, 6 of them. Some were defused and detonated on site. Others were actually taken away. The security threat remains, and it's a global concern of terrorism and all that. The president, in his speech, he said they know who these people are. The planners are ADF, and they are in Congo. But luckily, the Congo government allowed our government, our troops to hunt the ADF in Congo. So the government has built capability to handle this, and he said actually ADF was defeated long ago in 2007. So I see Asuman, you are eager to take the first shot.
No,
please.
Not really being eager,
Do
but I keep laughing at those things President Museveni makes. I am not a security expert like him, but you see there are certain things as an expert that you need to do, to say, and in Mao's language, say so that you remain above reproach.
Oh.
Yes. Let me begin with this. I am a Muslim myself. I for the first time I took a lot of keen interest in watching Mr. Museveni speak, and I took the conclusion that during when we were burying Honorable Chanjo, Imam Kasozi told me, every time you see Mr. Museveni speaking about Amin and ADF, know that he has weaponized those two subjects against Muslims.
Really?
Yes. And we take it seriously. By the Muslim community is now taking that very, very serious, taking from me. That's one. Two, back to the issues of security. You see, Mr. Museveni even started telling the history of how ADF was formed that day, that security brief you had briefly. Then he started saying it. He said the wrong, how ADF started. He said he gave the wrong version, and the wrong version he gave that some of the Muslims who went studying wherever they went to study are the ones that came back and formed ADF, which is not correct.
Really?
We know for a fact that even Jamiru Mukulu, who is the founder of ADF, simply converted to Islam. He was a Catholic. We all know their home here.
Yeah, but he had interactions with the Hassan Tulabis of this world, I think.
That was much later. That was much later when he was looking for support like anybody else, like Mr. Museveni also looked for support. Actually, when already they were into their rebellion. That's when they got in touch with the Hassan Turabis, who was a link between him and so and you know, the exact reason why we Muslims think that he gave that version about school is what is going on here. Just last week here in Namungona, there is a school there that offers a dual curriculum of both the Muslim and then Islam and then the secular. Of course, there is a level which is equivalent to senior 6 in Islamic theology that if you go through, they graduate and give them certificate. These boys had gone to graduate, as we all know. As they were reading their names to pick their certificates, drones came, picked all of them, and they were being. That was before this bomb thing. Boys boys who are below 20 years. In Impigi, I want to just build up, because I'm going to summarize the other one, but just to build up. In Impigi there is a school which also does duo. Now, they simply went to the other section which offers the Islamic theology, and left the secular one, and arrested or kidnapped all the children. And went
so
to them.
In one or another,
now,
you're
in one
saying,
or the other,
you're saying the insecurity in this country has been to some extent used to target.
No, when you listen to
certain groups of
if
people.
you listen, not certain, this particular one we are saying the Muslims. If you listen to President Museveni speak, and deliberately selecting the education, taking the education angle, how people get into education, the Islamic education, that's what for us, the Muslims in this country, are getting. Now, if you look at the bombs, let me tell you, these bombs, and on record, terrorism in the world generally have taken more Muslim lives than the non-Muslims. That is on record.
Oh.
More Muslims have died in the hands of terrorism in this world than the non-Muslims. That is a fact. There is no Muslim who has gone who has studied any Islam that fancies insecurity, that fancies killing. You see, the Quran itself tells you that if you killed one, it is as if you've taken one life, and not a human being only. It is as if you've killed the entire humanity. That's the Quran.
But I think even President Museveni in his speech hinted about it. That
no. For us, we read
Muslim leaders in this country have, fortunately, distanced themselves from these terror acts.
And it would be even in security's interest to take my opinion, because it's from among the community, by the way. So for us, we have always condemned the issues of insecurity. We only do not want, and we want to be part, Muslims in this country want to be part of those fighting insecurity. What we want to reject as Muslims is trying to Islamize terrorism, Islamize crime, and therefore Muslims, when you go, I was talking to somebody who just left CMI, and listen to what this guy told me, that when it comes to time for prayers, you may think it is a Friday. Because of the Muslims in the safe houses. So we want to appeal to police. Number one, if you want to involve the Muslims in this fight, because we also Ugandans, we want to have a crime-free country. We want to have a terrorist-free country. First of all, don't Islamize it. Number two, let's concentrate as a country. We concentrate, each security organ concentrates around its role. And that's why what we started with, and by saying, do you see when, for example, I don't want to politicize it the way other people are politicizing it. How come these bombs have whatever informed security people? They are saying that, there is somebody, and a spokesperson, by the way, he also says he's a sympathizer of NRM, who went on radio and said, this is how come these bombs inform security, that we are here and security is that is able to locate all of them. So we don't want to do that way. And we want to have a country and say, police, when you do your work properly, leave the politicians do. For you, in every activity that is going on in the country, whether it is opposition activity, whether it is a religious activity, concentrate on your core mandate of having security and giving security to everybody. You will do your work properly and you will be supported by everybody.
They are listening. Dr. Jide Rewanzala, I really ask you to quickly comment about the concerns Odaka raised. I think they are really valid concerns.
First of all, in principle, I want to agree that Uganda sits in a very volatile region, Great Lakes region of Africa, and because of our history, because of the global dynamics, we are facing a challenge of terrorism. And as you recall, not long ago, we had bombs targeting CPS, where we lost some lives, targeting the Parliament Avenue. And we have had a record of some politicians who are targeted and killed. And therefore, being a citizen, I will really support every effort of government, of security, to ensure that Ugandans are safe. And going into the President's address on the same, I really appreciate, because there is a lot of laxity in the country, whereby you go to congested places such as tax parks. In fact, sometimes I say maybe these people don't know where to go and plant the bombs, because there are places that are very open, like tax parks, like shopping malls. No one is checked. And therefore, the president, by raising awareness, to me that was very important. And I have been to a number of churches here, and I have seen certain measures, especially those with so many people, like House of Prayer Ministries. I've seen, I think, Pastor Kakande's, All Saints, where they are using those technology to check people who come. And I would encourage all others to do the same, to ensure that there is safety. It may not even be a bomb, but one person can target another inside there and harm a number of people. Now, the only challenge I always have at times is the manner in which we mix up information. If we have a terror alert, yes, and then security spokespersons are just appearing to be linking it to an opposition member who is holding rallies, and then we shall not be responsible for these ones. I believe security should have a professional language, such that they are not taken to be partisan in the execution of their mandate. Because it will be very wrong for like Enanga or Brigadier Kulaije to come and say we shall not be responsible for the security of NUP people, if, you know, those crowds. It is a responsibility of the state to protect its people, no matter whether they agree with the system or not. But on those measures, I strongly agree with the president that we should take measures to avoid any loss of lives.
Okay. And don't you think in one way or another it is a credit to security organs for having managed this latest incident in a swift and
but also to a certain extent, I somehow agree with Tamale Mirundi, because it is possible the bombs are bomb, but all the 6, all of them are planted, all of them, none of, after how long, you know? So sometimes
who knew how many there were? Those were just 6.
So anyway, I will leave it at that.
Because it is a serious matter anyway. Because if it was the other way around,
I don't want to,
then it would be really sad.
Yes, I want to be a free citizen, not to fight with state institutions.
Okay.
Maybe just one thing here.
Okay.
We very well know that the history of insecurity on the African continent, in relation especially with the global terrorism, took so many lives at Chad and Rugby. That was one of the saddest moments in this country.
2010.
There are other incidences where these bombs have gone off, and we know what it means when you are the one who is burying your loved one. I want to say, therefore, from what my brother Odak here was saying, that it would be very unfortunate if it is true that we have got some of the actors within the government who are particularizing terrorism to a certain religion. I want to believe, speaking for myself, that the little I know about NRM government, they are incapable of doing such a thing. Because the history of NRM is such that it is all inclusive, and they are non-partisan. And at the same time, when you look at their
NRM is non-partisan.
10-point program, when you look at their 10-point program and the 15-point program now, you appreciate the fact that one of the cardinal principles upon which it stands is that there is peace and security, and you cannot be talking about peace and security in relation to one religion or two religions at the expense of the other one. However, like I have always noted, there will always be those overzealous characters within the system who probably by their actions certain misinterpretations can be made. Oh, yeah. Now, finally, there is a habit which is growing that in a majority of the media houses we have now in Uganda, and progressively actually in other jurisdictions also on the continent and beyond, that you gain more favor by appearing on media and dissing the government, because our listenership in a majority of the cases are urban, and there is always an kind of apathy when it comes to the existing government with the urban population. Now, I'm not the type that will come and do that, but I will do one or two things, which are, one, I will point out, and I have consistently done that, the wrongs within NRM, because I know them. I will appreciate the correct lines that NRM has taken, and I will also promise the population where we can and we shall improve. And then, very finally, the problem we have had, and this one I must emphasize it, is that, and I think both Daka and Wanzara talked about it, is that we have not worked on the ideology. We seem to be going down. During our time of the late Kawes and what have you, this cadreship, you see, particularizing cadre and correcting the LC5s, LC3s and what have you, and training them just about a few weeks and taking them back because they are delivering services to the government, is not, when you get this bulk of the youth, the programs we used to do with Fajir Mande, General Masco at Shimon and elsewhere.
I can hear you now calling for national service.
Absolutely, the equivalent we have like in Nigeria and Ghana. There is nothing as bad as raising a generation that is devoid from appreciating the problems of their country.
Oh, yeah.
We need to go back.
Okay. No, wait a minute. I would want to hear Comrade Rugarama talk about these sentiments around the bombs being linked to the political activities that are happening across the country. Are those sentiments really?
Very quickly on that, it's good I had actually left it out. It is very unfortunate that we still have politicians in this country for purposes of gaining political capital who are going to appear on media houses and make very embarrassing and cantankerous statements that a government like NRM can, now as it is, plant bombs that are going to go off and kill its own citizens simply because it is kind of scared that NUP or other opposition political parties are having large crowds and probably they are going to take over power, so it is scared about that. I want to state that the NRM, with their problems, some other problems notwithstanding that it may be experiencing, cannot ideologically go down the drain of staging such bizarre bombs and other related insecurity kind of tactics to scare away her own people simply because they want to gain political capital.
With the bombs going off and being intercepted all over Kampala, do you think those crowds we've seen in Mbale will be allowed in the city here?
Unfortunately, in the city, if you are asking for my opinion, we have got a lot of business in the city. And if we can gazette areas where people can be and their security is guaranteed, not necessarily paralyzing business within Kampala, simply because we want to appear politically correct, then I think it will be very correct.
Also, you support...
the rallies can go on as long as As long as they are
to have rallies, Bobby Wine's rallies regulated when he comes to the city.
absolutely, he's a Ugandan. He's entitled to protection like any other, but not in the center of business to disrupt. The economy is already bad. We don't want the economy to be worse.
I really agree with the doctor because when I was in Makerere University and a strong political activist, City Square used to be our place.
Yeah.
We used to call it Constitutional Square. We would hold rallies there. I remember when Dr. Besigye returned from exile. That time I was also an activist and we mobilized to go and receive him. And we had those altercations with the police and they said, you cannot come, you're going to disrupt business. But later on, through engagement with the General Kayihura, and they told us, okay, you can now go to Kololo airstrip. So at that time we laughed because I think there was an assumption that Kololo was too big and therefore the crowd would not, could not manage there. So I can assure you people feel the Kololo. But since then, all green areas in the city have been cordoned.
My concern is that maybe the only place I can see is Kololo. If Bobby Wine wants,
and I even don't know at what stage Kololo became owned by the president's office, that to use it, it's always full of military. These public places belong to the public.
From Wasman, now
before come, just 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute.
The concern that Mr. Asuman raised of Islam, I did something. Islamizing terrorism. I think this, of course, I respect every religion, but statistics are showing that because ADF was built around religion, so they find it the easiest way to recruit. And some of the hotspots that they target are that have so many Muslims, like Bujiri, like Mayuge, like Butambala. So if you look at people disappearing and joining ADF, most of them come from highly Muslim areas. And I think because of that, the intelligence is meant to believe that, we have, and in the process, it looks like Muslims are targeted. But of course, the unfortunate cases where because of either bad intelligence, where some have been wrongly targeted. So
I think, Asuman, you should also take note of that possibly.
Yes, I take note of that. The question the community is asking, Konyi was a Catholic, and Konyi did a lot of havoc. A lot of havoc. How come none of those atrocities Konyi was doing were Catholicized?
Because
I must say that
he did not front the religion so much as a tool.
You remember from Lakwena, from Lakwena, the Holy Spirit movement. You get it? The Holy Spirit movement. That was Lakwena.
Okay.
The Lord is the Lord is resistance.
I think that debate will go on because even in America, I remember Bush and administration being accused of Islamizing terrorism, and the Muslims were being witch hunted. I think those calls have been there.
No. That debate has been there, and you know, we talk about Uganda because the scope we are talking about here is Uganda. So Uganda should not act like America. And you see, that's what we have always talked. Because for me, you remember during, is it the late Kawesi? Do you know how many Muslims, by the purely Muslims, 126.
Okay, Odaka, one final comment on from what your colleagues have submitted.
Yes.
What do you think will happen when Bobby Wine comes to Kampala? Is there any justification to regulate his crowds when he comes to Kampala?
Picking it up from what the doctors have said, bombs versus these political activity, not crowd, political activities, and the doubts people have. It speaks to the trust people have in the establishment. You see, one time, I remember we were still this Kimeza time, And my friend Charles Romushano was making a point. I told Charles, eventually I told him, Charles, you see, what you're saying could be true. But you see, as a system, make sure you people stick to the truth. Because there will be a time when you people want Ugandans not to do anything, but only to believe you. But by then, unfortunately, you will have lied to them so many times that they have lost trust and confidence in you. And that they will... In 2017, around there were bomb alerts in Uganda, but also in Kenya. It was even during
simultaneous explosion.
Yes, during Easter season. Can you imagine in Kenya? In Kenya, people remained at home. Here, people dismissed the entire. They said tetubesiga. Now, it is the problem here that as a government, if your citizen do not think you keep lying about them. Oh. You see, I saw a member of parliament on radio, on TV in this country saying, "Nobo bubomu bwabadde butulikanga nsigo za fene." You get it? You get a member of parliament. But all for me, what my understanding is an issue of trust. And you know his backing was bana basajja bebali mu nsiko otafire yatugamba tibali bambale gundi za UPC ne bagenda batta abantu. It is a trust. So even this bomb, it could be true. Okay. But the fact that the issue of trust. So for me, my appeal are two. My appeal are two. Number one, we can always remake ourselves and divorce our policing, our security things from politics. Good. Number two, I think our security should learn that they are working for everybody. The fact that one is a NUP, is FDC, is NEED, is UPC, does not stop that person from being a Ugandan, and does not stop you as security. That your responsibility, it doesn't, because that was a very, very unfortunate statement from Kuraije, that they have no responsibility over NUP crowd. The very last one, allow me just say this, that you see, we are talking about everybody else. I knew Dr. Wanzala as a former activist in the UPC. I also heard that there was something in UPC, of course, subject to verification, that yesterday one of the president of UPC went to the father's grave and asked to ask the father for permission to stand for presidency this time. And when he put, that was a UPC member telling me, when he put the walking stick, the father
inherited from the father.
He inherited from the father. The stick was put lying, the stick just stood up and it rained all around the grave. So that is confirming that you should go ahead. So it seems the father was telling him, now you go ahead.
Now
finally, let me read these comments and okay, and it is from Dr. Alvin Mutebi. He says, greetings to Odaka. What happened to our early warning systems? We have to invest more in understanding security and the ideology of promoting peace in a country without peace policy. We are getting confused. In fact, our security systems are not that much coordinated. Security operatives don't even know themselves.
They shouldn't.
Yes. They shouldn't.
What about counter?
There's what they call counterintelligence.
They shouldn't.
Yeah. You send a spy, then you send another spy.
A spy should be able to spy on a spy.
Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Arvin Mutebi, my friend there. Mr. Museveni is right when he says ADF was defeated. It is the reason he organized a birthday party one day after he had threatened to close churches because ADF terror, because of ADF terror attacks. Anyway, that is our of double standards. Magaya from Buyende.
Maybe because for him he had capacity to close the road.
Yeah, for him he has and he has
military. So we cannot emulate him.
Okay, gentlemen, we have only 4-5 minutes to walk out of this place. I don't know if you can make a comment on Honorable Semujunganda's move to check the expenses or the expenditure that this country bears on President Museveni's, keeping President Museveni in power. I think that is the headline that ran in the Observer this week. It was highlighting the cost of keeping President Museveni in power. And there have been a lot of debate around that particular issue. Others saying it is misdirected. It is not Museveni, it is the presidency. While others have their own views also.
If you permit me,
please, in just 2 minutes, please, because of time.
One, I appreciate.
Is the debate justifiable?
Yes, I appreciate the proposal by Honorable Ibrahim Ssemujju, and I want to believe that our president of the 1986 to about 1990 something would have not even, that doesn't need to be reminded if he was still operating in those circumstances. I also reckon the fact that circumstances have changed, especially the global security threats around our presidency and our president, given the kind of dynamics that are operating and how, for instance, he's operating in the global space. It may not necessarily mean that all that is around him, like the cooks, the sweepers, and what have you, are part of what the security threat that we are talking about, and that they should be given all those, the budget should be as ballooned as it is now. I want to state, therefore, that for my own, I propose that Ssemujju-Nganda's proposal should be looked at critically, and that we can have, as a starting point, because the prudent methods of governance should be across the board. But for a start, I believe that we can get something substantial from the presidential board.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gerard Weri-Wanzala.
Yeah, partly I agree with the Honorable Ssemujju. We need to comprehensively review our budget priorities every year. For instance, if we are having all these challenges, is it necessary that we put, say, 187 billion for presidential donations? That money, I think, is what we see even now holding parties everywhere. So if the money is too much and there's no clear guidelines of how it's going to be used, then you'll see money being wasted. And I'm also concerned about the way the leaders are living in opulence, totally different from how the population is living. There is a disconnect, and this is very, very dangerous for the country.
Thank you so much, Asuman, coming, but let me read to you what is in Honorable Ssemujju-Nganda's document. 82 presidential advisors, 27 presidential assistants, senior presidential assistants, 400 vehicles for his office, the president, 996 employees at State House, 59 waitresses, 14 room attendants, 40 private secretaries, 80 gardeners, 129 drivers, 35 cooks, 12 chefs. Not talking about other privileges. Your final shot.
Yes, for me, I think that it should only start with the presidency, but we need to review, but look at all our public
service structure
entirely. Because you're talking about all that for the presidency, but you see when you get to a ministry, you find there is a Minister of Education, the State Minister for Higher Education, Primary Education, in charge of sports, 4 commissioners, you know.
And when we need them in the parliament,
they are not there. So but when you look at Minister of Education in its entirety, it is equivalent to the presidency. Now you go to Minister of Trade, the same. You go to, so I think the entire government structure should be reviewed, because can you imagine, it's almost 73% of our budget goes to is recurrent. You can't operate.
I
like
saw
that.
a short interview by fellow journalist Solomon Serwanja talking about the 12 billion budget for the leader of opposition. Now I wonder what the Speaker's office has, the OPM has, and it is a huge bill we have.
The Semuju travels every now and then.
You see that for the speakers only, entertainment and welfare is 13.1 billion.
Only entertainment.
Entertainment only. That's speaker. So the deputy speaker is 10 point something billion. So what he's saying, the opulence which our leaders are living is really ugly. It is really bad. So we need the entire structure
Good.
to be reviewed.
It is not suited for our economy the way we are.
Yeah, but the last
with the public debt shooting to 80, is it 82.5 trillion?
Trillion, yes. So the last one for me, as the Secretary General of the party, I want to appeal to all members of need across the country. This is our first shot in as far as engaging in electoral politics is concerned in Hoima. I want to call upon all members of need, all leaders of need, please let's find a way of supporting, either physically being there or supporting Lenos in one way or the other.
I am Ayume from Magamaga. Wait a minute. I am Ayume from Magamaga. I wonder when Mohoz conducted his tour countrywide, nothing like bomb threats were mentioned. My President Chagulanyi conducted his tour. Police and army have started to bring out false allegations. Okay, those are the comments, and because of time, I may not read out all of them. Many others are coming in. I must thank you so much for being with us. Thanks to the panel. Thank you so much, Dr. Gerard. Hope to see you again. Dr. Daniel Lugalama, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Asman Odaka, and thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, the people working behind the cameras, behind the systems, and the control room. Let's catch up next Saturday. This is The Dialogue, and we'll be back next week. Good afternoon and a good week ahead.